It's day 2 at PDAC. We're on the floor with Denis Clement from Critical Mineral Americas. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you, Tracy. How are you?
All right, we have an incredibly exciting project, perhaps the future supply for critical minerals in Alberta. Where do we start?
Well, it's a long story. We had this project many years ago, back in 2010 to 15, in another company. We did a lot of work on it. We got a preliminary economic assessment on it that said it was worth $4 billion. Everybody laughed at us and said, oh, we buy critical minerals from the Chinese, we don't need it domestically. So about 5 years ago, of course, with critical minerals being as wanted and as necessary as they are now in the Western world, we reacquired all the assets and we're relaunching Critical Minerals Americas as we speak this week.
Can I describe it as the tar sands for critical minerals?
In scale, yes, it's not a tar sands at all, but in scale it is of that scale. We have a 43101 that was just issued that put somewhere between 35 and 50 billion tons of recoverable critical mineral black shales on the deposit. That's at a $10 US cutoff, so there's a lot of material there. The material is soft, it's easy to dig. And the processing is called bioleaching, and bioleaching is fairly common, is very well known in the industry, and we did a fair bit of work with the National Research Council, with a couple of engineering firms back in 2014-15, and we proved up that the bioleaching does work for this material, and now we're going to upgrade all that data over the next year and a half.
So we've talked a lot on InvestorNews over the years of monazite, dialite, ionic clays. We've never talked about black shale. Okay, black shale. Give us a bit of a 101 for those of us out there going, okay, black shale for critical minerals, why aren't we talking about this?
Well, the black shales were deposited by the ocean floor, or on the ocean floor, many eons ago. And the shales, the mineralization was frankly from the seawater, and it got compressed into these black shales. These black shales are flat-lying. We have 250 square kilometers of black shale, and there's about 200 million tons per square kilometer. So they're very broad-based and very consistent over that area. Like I said, they get processed by bioleaching and they produce a variety of minerals. There's 8 critical minerals that get produced from this, and there's all the rare earth metals except for promethium. Promethium can't be produced from it has to be produced in a reactor. So it's a broad base of critical minerals, and it's a very large potential source of supply. The Western world needs a source of supply, and this can be a very long-term source of supply of critical minerals and rare earth elements.
So let's go back to how the bioleaching. Okay, can you explain that a little bit more? Because you were trying to explain it to me earlier, and I was just fascinated by the way you're using these insects to pull out these critical minerals.
Well, the bioleaching is performed by bacteria. There's a word for them, they're called Bioleaching, and I don't know exactly the word. And what you do is you culture these bacteria from your assets, from your material. So back in 14, when the National Research Council did the bioleaching studies for us, they took our material and they cultured these bacteria, or these bugs. These bugs are living. They live on sulfur, which is interesting up in the oil sands area, and carbon. And what they do is they basically consume the impurities and leave behind what's called a leachate, and that leachate contains all those minerals. At that point, that's just a chemistry project of taking it out of the leachate. There's various ways of getting the various metals and rare earths out.
So government funding, is the government looking at you? They must find this exciting.
Well, they do, especially in Alberta, because Alberta has a plan to diversify their economy. Of course, they've got lots of oil and gas, and they've got lots of pipeline, but they really want to diversify their economy into many other things. Critical minerals is a big highlight for them. We have on our team the former Assistant Deputy Minister of Natural Resources for Alberta. He was vice chairman of a company called AOSTRA. AOSTRA was the government agency that commercialized the oil sands in Alberta. and he was the vice chairman of that. They have a strategy, he and our team have a strategy to develop the processing required to take these critical minerals out. There's all kinds of elements to a critical mineral deposit. There's location, we have that. We have roads, we're in Alberta, jurisdiction is fantastic. Infrastructure is there, there's oil sands operations all around us, and Fort McMurray as a source of employed people. Jurisdiction is Alberta, they're very, very motivated for this. And then there's the processing. The processing is the trick in the Western world because the Chinese have been doing that all along. We are going to develop processing facilities, probably with the help of the government, to process critical minerals in Canada, ideally in Alberta.
So, PDAC, what are your objectives at PDAC this week?
Well, PDAC is, for me, meeting all my suppliers, meeting my engineering firms. We will be launching a financing in the next 2 weeks, so I'm meeting up with a whole bunch of investors who are going to participate in the financing. And really general awareness of Critical Minerals Americas. Critical Minerals Americas is going to go through a big awareness campaign, both here in Europe, actually in Korea and Japan as well, and in the States. They all need product like this, and it doesn't exist in very many places. There's one operation in Finland that's similar called Talvivaara. It's a big bioleaching processing facility. We know from their example that it works, and we're going to transport that here to Canada. But it's awareness, awareness, awareness.
Okay, so speaking of awareness, it's Critical Mineral Americas. And in addition, you touched on your management team. It's always interesting when you watch. I tell everybody, check out the CEO's background, what they've been involved in. You've also added some additional board members recently that are quite significant. Do you want to touch on them?
Sure, of course. Talk about myself first. My last project was Omai Gold Mines, which I left to do this project. And Omai we did about 6 years ago. It now has $1.5 billion market cap. So it's been a very successful project for our investors. In addition, our VP Explorations, Dan LaRue, who's been one of the best geologists I've ever worked with, certainly. And on the board, we've just retained two new additions. One is Sonia Savage. Sonia Savage was Minister of Natural Resources for Alberta, and she was also Minister of the Environment. She's a very influential person in Alberta. And secondly, Greg Turnbull, not secondly, but Greg Turnbull, who was chairman of McCarthy Tétrault, the law firm. He was chairman of the Alberta Health Authority. Again, a very, very influential Albertan. We're building a whole team in Alberta. And our advisor is Ken Bradley. And Ken was the vice chairman of AOSTRA, as I mentioned earlier. And he was the assistant deputy minister of natural resources as well. So these are very, very influential people and very motivated people to bring success to this in Alberta and in Canada.
So what's next this year? What's in the next quarter?
We're probably going to do public financing in the next month. On the back of that, we're going to have a big awareness campaign. We're launching our technology programs. We're actually going to announce next week that we've signed up the National Research Council of Canada in Devon, Alberta, to start upgrading all of our technology. We know it works, but it always needs twigging and upgrading. We're going to delineate 2 areas on this massive property. It's too big to isolate, so we had to isolate 2 areas. One will be 5 billion tons, and the other one will be 4 billion tons of recoverable critical minerals. And we're going to do preliminary economic assessments on those probably in the next 12 to 18 months. And on the back of those, there'll be a large awareness campaign about the existence of this supply of critical minerals for the Western society, I guess.
Denis Clement, a very well-known professional and expert in the industry with his new deal, Critical Minerals Americas. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tracy. A real pleasure.